Hi, Ben with Novelux Stereophonic. Thanks for stopping by the channel. In a previous video, I did an evaluation of the LC1020E, focusing on its ability to measure capacitance and resistance. In this video, I'm going to focus on another one of its features, which is component sorting. So this device allows us to set a nominal component value and a tolerance, and then quickly grade parts. And it gives a nice beep and a green or red pass-fail, so you can really easily sort through a bag of parts. This is really useful if you're into buying and selling new old stock parts, especially carbon comp resistors that tend to drift. So I go deep into that feature, and along the way I run into a few issues, but luckily I'm able to solve most of them. So if you stick around to the end, you get some good tips on how to use this for sorting. One of the other features with this meter that I was really interested in was its sorting ability. I tried it with capacitors earlier and it didn't work that well, but I played around with it a little bit more and tried it out with some resistors, and it's actually pretty cool, so I wanted to show that. So in order to get into the sorting function, we need to push and hold the hold button, and it'll bring up the sort here. So right now it's set for a nominal resistance of 500 ohms, and you can't see it here on the screen, but I put in a 1% tolerance. So let me open up this bag. So what I have here is a bunch of mil-spec resistors, new old stock. I have it marked that these are supposed to be 845 ohms at 1/2 watt, 1%. So let me grab one of these. There's a counter here that tells you how many of your batch passed and failed. So because it timed out, it has one failure in the counter. Let's go ahead and put this in. It'll measure it. So with my resistance set to 500 ohms, it should give this a fail because it's 68% out of spec. But for some reason it's not beeping. I think it just needs to be closer to the tolerance level. So let's go into the settings for the sorting feature and adjust this. Push OK to select here. We want 845. 845 ohm, and tolerance is at 1%. If we wanted to change that, we have to push and hold to exit that. Click again, and then we can change the tolerance here. Push and hold, push and hold, push and hold. Okay, now we're back. So this is saying 0.28% out of spec, which is within specification. Let's see what it does here now. I had this working earlier. Let me power cycle the unit. And maybe it doesn't work with the Kelvin lead. And that could be the reason why this has been freaking out. All right, let's jump back into this. There we go. So I guess I just needed to power cycle to get it back into the right mode, and power cycling it also resets the counter. So let's just imagine we change this resistor out. It seems to have frozen up. Let's power cycle it one more time. All right, imagine we swap this out. Let's try it without the Kelvin leads. I had this working pretty well earlier, just using this section. Okay, counted that. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, so it must not like the Kelvin leads, and that's maybe why I was struggling with the capacitance earlier. Yeah, this seems to be working well now. So you can see how you can quickly go through a bag of resistors and check and make sure that they're all within specification. Now we're dealing with mil-spec metal film parts. This probably is a useless test because they should all be within tolerance, but where this is more useful is carbon composition resistors. They tend to drift with age and moisture exposure. So when you're dealing with new old stock parts that are susceptible to drift, this can really help sort out the ones that are no longer within spec. Okay, the resistors I have here are 30K, 5% tolerance. I doubt many of these are going to still make the 5% tolerance. These parts are pretty old. They were stored well, but we're going to find out. So let's jump back into the sorting menu, and we're going to change this to 30K. $30K ohm. I have to push and hold. I can go to this one. We're going to adjust this to 5%, confirm it, and back all the way out. So now we're set to 30K, but we have our counter from the old metal film test. So let's power down, power back on. Now these leads are a little bit tarnished. Hopefully this will work. Sounds good, 1.6 out. So I like that it displays the actual percentage from nominal. That one's a fail. So you can see how if you had a bag full of new old stock parts, you could very quickly sort out the ones that are within tolerance. And if you're dealing with like 1,000 parts or something, you can get down to a bag of maybe 100 that meet specification, and those can go into your stash, and the rest can get, you know, used for other purposes or sold off or whatever. So this sorting feature is pretty useful, I think, in certain applications. I just worry about how worn out these are going to get. Let me try it with the Kelvin lead again, and I bet it's going to freak out. Oh, looks like it's doing fine at this value. Let's try some more. And it's interesting, I'll retest those and we'll see if any of those meet with the Kelvin. Yeah, I don't know what it's waiting for. Maybe it needs to stabilize and it's just not sensing it properly. But it seems like it has some trouble completing the test when using the Kelvins, unfortunately. So yeah, on doing large batches, I'd be worried about how long these little mounting clip things are going to hold up in the long term, because they're going to eventually get stressed out from putting components in all the time. I know that when I initially tested this batch of resistors that there was at least 4 or 5 of them that were out of spec, out of tolerance. I wanted to use the sorting feature on this to do the calculation for me so I could very quickly go through these and get a pass-fail of whether it met the 5% tolerance. But you're limited on this. You can't go below 1 ohm, which is kind of disappointing. I tried to go to 9 and wrap it around to 0, but it doesn't let me. So the lowest you can go is 1 ohm. So unfortunately, I can't use that feature to do a bulk batch test on these low ohm emitter resistors. Just for kicks, I thought I'd try capacitance again. So I pulled some 0.22 microfarad caps at 10% out of my stash. Got the sorting set up in capacitance. Okay, let's see if it works for capacitance now that I actually know how to run it. Yeah, apparently capacitance doesn't work. Let's restart it. Oh. Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. I wonder if they'll be able to fix that with firmware eventually. When I was setting up for that capacitance test, I was originally in the microfarad setting and I couldn't go below 1 microfarad. But then I realized if I ranged into nanofarad, I got more granularity. So I thought maybe this thing can sort lower than 1 ohm. So if I go into milliohms here, I should be able to set this up and retest those emitter resistors with the sorting feature. Okay, problem is these aren't factory leads. It's going to be harder to push these into the thing, and I've got ones like this that are all messed up that I would have to bend straight in order to put in this tester. So that's not ideal, and I don't think it's going to work with the Kelvin clips we've seen. That's not really working that well, but let's just see if this works. Well, I don't know what it didn't like about that, but let's try again. Okay, says that one's good, so that worked. Let's try it with the Kelvin leads because I'm going to ruin this connector pushing these bent parts into these slots. All right. So that one's a fail. Let's see if it can do 2 in a row. Yeah, for some reason with the Kelvin leads, it seems like it can measure 1, but then it gets stuck and it just won't move on to test the next component. I wonder if it's to do with the jack being populated. Like maybe it's relying on this to actually close all the way. I bet that's what it is. So check this out. What if I short it out between each test? No, what if I slide it? I guess that's the trick. It's not very... No, and now it's going to reboot itself. So obviously this thing has some issues that still need to get sorted out, but it has a lot of potential. I think with some future firmware updates, this is going to be a pretty useful tool for me. My unit's on V1.0. It looks like the manufacturer does have V1.1 available. There's no changelog, but I think I'm just going to throw it in and see if it helps with any of these issues. After downloading the file, I did find a changelog, and it looks like they were indeed working on some issues with the sorting feature, but it's more related to notifications for pass-fail, so I don't really have high hopes for this, but just in case I'm going to load this in and see if it improves the performance. Okay, let's see if I can get this. I did find it's in section 7 in the manual. It says, hold the up button and press power. When the screen shows bootloader, it means device enter firmware upgrade mode. Okay, let's try this. Bootloader, okay. All right, let me give this a shot. Not the log, I need the bin file. Just dump it into this if it's a flash drive. Here it goes. Well, it did say it changed something with the power button. Change power on off to long press. So before the firmware update, you could just click the power button and it would turn on. Now apparently we need to push and hold to turn on, which is fine. I have no problem with that. We're going to select English. Let's check the version. Let's see, did it turn my volume? No, it kept my volume. Maintain that, I guess. System V1.1. All right, let's retest this thing with the sorting feature and see if there's any improvement. Okay, moment of truth here. Let's see if it will actually grade a capacitor. I got a 10% tolerance. It's within 3%. This counter looks like it's at 1. Let me see. Counter's back to 0. It caught it. It just didn't beep at me. I want to see this thing again. Maybe they removed that. Let me go back into the menu here. Oh, warn, no good. Let's do, I only have 2 options. Let's try warn OK. I have the LED and the volume turned on. Let's try it. Okay. So it seems to be able to do capacitance now. Let's see if it works with the Kelvin clip. Hey. Nice. Let's try it with a resistor. Oops. First I have to set it up for resistance. Well, let's see, we need to go into milliohms, 330. Take it to 5%. Let's power cycle it to reset the count. And again, I have to do a push and hold to power on after the update. Put it back into sorting mode. I don't know why I have a fail count here. It's giving me an OK here, but it's not. Oh, there we go. It seems like it's not adding it to the count consistently. When I was editing the last portion of the video, I noticed a pattern. Whenever I pulled the component out of the leads, this was always still in the megohms. And this is what I found. Just by holding the Kelvin leads, it's reading out in megohms on the meter. Even just putting my hand near the Kelvin clip is causing it to have a reading. So I think what's happening is there's a threshold inside that needs to be exceeded before it resets the counter. So let me try this. We're going to hook it up, forcing it to have OL on the screen first, and we'll see if that allows it to always capture the count consistently. So I'm taking my hands completely away and letting it reset to OL between checks. And this would explain why pulling the clip out seemed to always solve the issue, but then you couldn't test the next one. So this seems pretty consistent now. Let's do one more, and then I want to try to make it error out. So let's give this worst case scenario. I'm going to be using my body as a resistor. So it's in the kiloohms. So let's put this in. And now on this one, let's not let it go to OL. So it's reading OK, but it's not adding to the count. Let's try that again. I think that's exactly what was going on. So around that specific area I was in next to my computer, holding the Kelvin leads in my hand must not have been allowing it to exceed that threshold to reset the counter. It seems to be working okay over here at the bench, but in front of my computer it was not happy with this scenario. So I think that's something to keep in mind when using the Kelvin clips for the sorting feature. Just make sure that it goes to OL before you repeat the test. Thanks again for stopping by the channel to check out this video on the sorting feature of the LC1020E. If you're interested in purchasing one of these for yourself, check the description. I'll have a link available there. If you enjoyed this content and would like to show some additional support to the channel, I have YouTube membership available. I also have a Patreon page where I go into a lot of the audio electronics repair that I do. Thanks again. We'll catch you on the next one.